Mancave Live with your host, Lexington Steele, and co-host, Andre Lavelle and Johnny Depp on LA Talk Radio. Let's get it in.
Hey, what's happening? This is Man Cave Live. I'm your co-host, Andre Lavelle. Lex Steele is running behind slightly, and JD is coming as well, I'm assuming. But tonight, we have a special guest in the house, an amazing film director and producer. He's worked on various television shows. Without further ado, Mr. Daryl Pitts.
What's up, Andre? What's
All
up?
right, man. Just loving life, brother. I'm glad you made it down.
Absolutely. Got to support my people for sure.
And, well, why don't you give us a few of your credits that we might have heard of?
Well, I started out at BET, Black Entertainment Television, on a show called Comic View, which is no longer around now.
I'm very familiar with Comic View.
Yes. I think you had a performance on there.
Yes, several.
I was sitting there watching. I had not seen you. And Teen Summit, Comic View and Teen Summit, and then I went to produce a lot of sports documentaries and specials. Did a commercial with the late Bernie Mac, and I'm working on a film now titled The Rhythm and the Blues, which is a period piece set in the 1960s Chicago with Leon from the Five Heartbeats and Temptations movie.
Right. So how difficult was it doing a period piece?
It's a lot of details to manage. I mean, from clothes to toasters. I mean, just things that you don't really think about when you are. But everything that you see needs to be reflective of that time, and even the makeup. Mm-hmm. So it's very costly. And like I said, a lot of research. For example, we had a scene in a club, and someone said, "Well, we need cigarettes." I'm like, I don't want cigarettes. They're like, yeah, everybody in the 60s smoked, so we need cigarettes. And so we had to go out and get cigarettes and do the whole nine. And
did you have a smoke-filled room? You had to get a smoke machine? Or
yeah,
did
we had a
just sit
smoke
there and
machine.
Smoke?
No. We had a smoke machine, and we had natural cigarettes, which I don't know what the difference between a natural cigarette and a unnatural one is. But, so we had a smoke machine, and like I said, every detail matters. I mean, if you're going to be a top flight director, you want everything to look as it's supposed to look and for people to feel like they've gone through that period.
Right. So is there a major difference between doing television and film?
It's getting a lot closer now. It used to be there was a big difference between TV and film. A lot of your bigger named actors did not want to do television. They considered it beneath them. Exactly,
like commercials. They go overseas to do a commercial.
Right. But then they realized, like, wait a minute, you get a check every week.
Yeah.
And you might do a film a year, maybe 2 years. And so, you start doing the math. That's why you see all of these big name actors like Don Cheadle and a lot of the other people, Glenn Close and et cetera, that would have never have done TV 15 years ago. They're now doing television. They have shows and vehicles built around their talents.
Yeah, especially HBO and Showtime.
All the networks now. And then, again, if you've got a name, it's different when you're producing something. You get to say, well, I want my character to do this or that. You look at Taraji, with Empire.
Yeah.
An actor of her growing status would not have been doing TV at that point, but, she gets a chance to show her chops every week. And
even, what's the other star on there?
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard, yeah.
So again,
although after he screwed up Iron Man, I'm sure he's kicking himself in the ass on that one.
Well, he keeps talking about it, though. He won't let it die. Well, I helped Robert Downey, and Robert Downey didn't help me back. And, sometimes, a closed mouth is better. People don't know what you don't know, and they don't know what you don't think. So, it's better sometimes.
So, speaking of actors, you have Leon.
Yes.
What's he been up to lately?
Leon works a lot. He has a band, Leon and the Peoples, and he's
he's doing music.
Yeah. He's been doing it. He travels around the world doing music. And
what kind of music does he do?
It's kind of a reggae-ish influenced music. And, the funny thing about it is, hanging out with Leon, it's like hanging out with a rock star, We were in a grocery store at 2 o'clock in the morning, and because we were getting some food, everything get closed in Chicago, and these two girls walk in, and one girl just starts crying, like, "Oh my God, Leon!" I'm just like, "Really, dude?" but
Dude doesn't age at all either.
no.
I saw him at a party once, and I asked him what the secret of youth was. I won't say what he responded, but it had something to do with the reason girls cry when they see him.
Okay. Like I said. And you feel like a prop standing there, like, you don't see me too? You just see Leon. Oh, okay, all right. But it's all good.
You're not Leon. Yeah.
No. It's
you have to say,
behind
hey, I'm the producer of the movie that he's in.
Yeah,
And then,
but it's still being in front of the camera,
Right.
and that's what the public sees as people in front of the camera. But a lot of the power and decisions is behind the camera.
Exactly.
So it's,
I'm learning that more and more. The more things I involve myself with, that not only the power but the long Joe.
Yeah.
So
And the longevity, frankly, because mostly everything I do, I create.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody gets to tell me I can't do this, I can't do that. And so if I get the money together, I can do it. And I've been very successful doing that.
You've done quite a few documentaries, right?
Yes. Yeah. I did a documentary a few years ago titled Real Black Love, and it was about black romance in movies and how it impacted the culture. And I had everybody from Keenan Ivory Wayans to Nia Long, Diane Carroll, Leon, Isaiah Washington, etc. So a lot of people, a lot of faces, and traveled the country with that, which was a really cool experience.
So because you're a producer and you create your own content and avenues and so forth, how difficult is it to not only get the ball rolling, but once you've completed a project, is it difficult finding distribution and all of that?
For me, that's the easiest part, because I guess I've been doing it so long, I have a lot of relationships, but it's just getting the finished product. Because in general, people will look at a finished product. If it looks like it's professional, most people will take a look at it because they know that you've put the time and effort and you have the resources. And most of what I've done is had a name attached to it. So they figure, well, if this person was willing to come on your project, it must have some value. So I don't have a problem with distribution. It's again, just raising the money and putting the project together that I think is the biggest challenge.
Give us a call right here, 818-570-5085. That's 818-570-5085. If you have any questions concerning the film industry, Hollywood, or just the hustle in general, anything for Mr. Pitts to answer. So I wanted to ask also, you had mentioned getting the money and getting the ball rolling. Do you find that being a person of color, it's more difficult working in the Hollywood system than if you were someone else?
Well, I've never been someone else,
That's
so I
true.
don't really have a frame of reference. I've been black my whole life, so it's what I got to roll with,
But we just looking at the numbers of films that are distributed, that showcase people of color, even television shows. I mean, they're making a big rave about this Empire situation, but we have so many stories to tell. I think if they gave us the opportunities, the financial resources to do that, we'd have more hits.
Well, I look at it a little bit differently to the extent that I don't want anybody to give me anything. If you really want to do it, you find a team. I was talking to someone today, and I said, this industry is much like a gang. And the strength of your gang, whether it's in numbers or resources, will generally determine your power and your influence in this industry. So you just have to get your gang together, and you got to get your people together. And once you get your people and your gang together, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. And that's something we as people of color, African Americans specifically, have not been tremendously successful within this business.
I definitely agree with what you're saying as far as getting your team together, getting your gang, getting people who are down for you. And it's about making those smart decisions and handling the business of show, not being so concerned with the show business, but the business of the show.
But the show is what people see. The show is what, people come up and, like, for example, everybody knows Tom Cruise, but everybody doesn't know J.J. Abrams. So, J.J. Abrams directed Star Trek, and he's going to do Star Wars and Person of Interest and Felicity. So again, here's someone with some really extensive credits and probably one of the biggest power brokers in the industry. And if he walked down the street, the average person wouldn't know him.
Wouldn't recognize him.
Wouldn't recognize him. So, again, the show is what people know. People know the show. And so,
But the power is behind the scenes.
But the power is behind the scene. But like I said, if you're out here, it depends on why you get into the business. I mean, some people like the show. Some people like the limelight. Some people like to be seen. So I don't knock that, but if you want the show, then you should have the show.
Well, the business is what gets us to the show. And if we don't control the business or the behind the scenes, we're limited to what other people dictate to give us for the show.
Well, that's why I said it's about having a team, because on the team you can have people who exclusively just want the show. They want to be seen. They want to be the star. They want to be this. And as long as their ego is in check, it's cool. But like I said, having a team and having people who have various interests, we don't all have to. I don't have a desire to be in front of the camera. I'm cool with what I do. I'm cool with, creating and putting things together. So, like I said, but to find people who want to be talented and truly are talented and have honed their skills, because a lot of times people, who are not necessarily in industry, they think it's easy. Yes. They think, all you do, I'm funny, I could be a comedian. No, well, what stage have you done? I want to be an actor. When did you act? Well, in 4th grade, I was in a play. Come on now. So, again, it's about the work.
Right.
So it is and truly show is part of that and the business is part of it. So you just need people who can handle both aspects of that.
In being a director, is the relationship with the actor as crucial as knowing how to get out of an actor what you need? Does that assist if you know the actor? Because I noticed like Quentin Tarantino, he hires the same actors over and over again, so they have a rapport. So him knowing them, like I saw in an interview, he says that he likes working with Samuel Jackson, and when he writes the cuss words in his film, he writes specifically for Sam because he know just how he gonna deliver that motherfucker.
Yeah, ain't nobody said that like Samuel Jackson, for sure. And I think part of it too, when you're writing, at least when I'm writing, I have people in mind. Like, I think that this person would be great at this role, and I'm not even thinking of in terms of marketing, but I think this person embodies this character. Mm-hmm. So, and in terms of working with the same people, I mean, let's be honest, there's a lot of money involved in the business. There's a lot of pressure. And so if you can have people that have your back, why would you not want those people?
Right.
And when I first started, I was just like, man, why don't they give me a chance, give a brother a chance? But now I realize it's like,
if you're not proven,
you want, if it's going to rain 40 days and 40 nights, do you want somebody who knows how to build a ship or somebody who thinks they know how to build a ship?
That's good, yeah.
So, like I said, I don't begrudge anybody. I just have to focus on my team and the team that's with me and getting us there and getting us on that ship for 40 days and 40 nights to be able to survive. So that's my job and that's my responsibility.
What about discovering new talent, though?
I'm always looking for new talent. Writers, directors, producers. I don't have to direct everything that I do. I'm not interested in directing everything that I do. As a matter of fact, I'm less interested in directing now than I am in producing. So I'm always looking for people who have a unique viewpoint, who have some hustle, because I can't be the only one that's interested in making money and getting money. But if they have those things, I'm always interested in people like that, because I think that that's the next step, is kind of institutionalizing this business and creating something for the next generation and the next generation.
Now, you mentioned something I find interesting, in that creating your product and putting that team together, people that you say you're looking for. How would a person go about contacting you if they had that hustle in them, or they had a great idea?
It's funny. So that brings up an interesting point, and I'll get to that in a second. But social media has been a great way for people to connect to people. And I've been a person that has not necessarily used social media for its full potential. I am very much about connecting to people in a real way and an organic way. But as we go forward, I think that that's something that because it's a world now. It's not just because I'm in LA or because I'm in Chicago or New York. It's a world now. So I think that I'm starting to see the bigger value of it. It's not just, oh, look at me, but it's really an opportunity to connect to some people in a real way. So yeah, that's been my challenge for me.
Utilizing social media to its fullest.
Yes.
Well, with the technology, even it seems like it might be easier to produce a product than it ever has been. You have digital video, people are editing things on their own. You can produce music. Everything is on a computer now. So, do you see that as a good thing, or is it hindrance to the money making potential of the film industry?
Well, I think anytime you lower the bar to where creative people can get in and do what they need to do, I think it's a great thing. But I think the flip side of that is that you got a lot of just fluff now, a lot of stuff, but like I said, there's undiscovered talent out there that has a $5,000 system that might make the next great film. So I think it's a great thing. It's just figuring out how to monetize it and how to really do what needs to be done in the business.
Awesome. Well, it looks like our host with the most is here. He's going to join us right now, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Lexington Steele, as he tries to open the door and make its way.
Do we have a clap for him, or what do we have? Shaft theme music? What do we?
We should have some Shaft.
We should have some Shaft theme music.
Well, his actual music that he enjoys, "Baby, won't you come my way?"
Oh wow! No, I think we got to go back. We got to go back to the Shaft.
To the classics.
Yeah, with a wah guitar. Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing.
I think he's tying his shoes.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what he's doing down there, but. Or maybe he's adjusted himself. I don't know.
Who knows? But okay. Well, he'll be in when he comes in. So great. So we're talking about social media and so forth and the internet. What do you think about YouTube and the content potential and opportunities that are available to put on YouTube?
Again, these are discussions that I've had a lot. It's great if you can do big numbers, or if you're a YouTube partner. That's a great thing. But it's not, people are always like, well, why don't you just shoot it and put it up on YouTube? Well, it's a business, and if you're at a point where you're in this business, you don't just do everything just for visibility. You wanted to make it a business. And so I think it depends on where you are in the industry.
It's about the revenue.
Yeah, it's about the revenue. And like I said, unless you're a partner now, YouTube does have situations where they have partnerships, but, that's based on numbers. And, last I checked, I think it was 10 cents per 10,000 views you have for the typical. And I mean, so you think about it, if you got 1 million views, what that means, there's not a lot of money. So if this is a profession for you, YouTube is probably not your first choice. But if you want to be an internet sensation, Justin Bieber, other people have come out of the internet world, putting a video on, you got something silly or a sketch you want to do, I think it's a good entree to a potential audience. So I think it just depends on what it is you want to do.
Okay. Well, Lexi's joined us.
Cool. Made it?
Yeah.
Made it. Here we are. So what are we guys talking about?
We're talking about the film industry and social media, the internet, and just how people can go about, pursuing this game.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. What did I miss?
Oh, man, you missed a lot.
I know.
Traffic?
No. Actually, we're in production today.
Oh, okay.
And so got a little bit late start coming into the studio, but we made it here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
cool. Well,
Can you tell people how, if they wanted to be in the industry?
Can you tell them how to do it?
Yeah.
It's easier. It's actually easier and more easier, but at the same time more competitive now.
Yeah.
Because while now a lot of people can get their media, their individual media out, whereas before there was no outlet for someone to display their skill set if they want to try and get in. Now there's a million ways someone could display their
YouTube
skills.
would not be one of those ways.
No, man. Well, no. Actually, no, because you can put a lot of softcore stuff that's well short of XXX or XX.
Okay.
So
that is
like
a
trailers.
Yeah,
like
you
a
can
little
put
trailer.
there's a lot of whether it's body worship or tease. If the girl has her clothes on, you could show it on YouTube.
Okay.
There's no restrictions against that.
Yeah.
So if you
basically
had to
you're
start
getting-
today, how would you start today?
Well, starting to would be so easy, whereas you can put together your own demo reel, essentially. You know what I'm saying? And then you can really just simply, even just something like email it to,
wow.
or go any of the studios or any of the agencies that represent talent,
Oh wow.
and they can see what you do, and send them a link, and then you can send them a link to a whole plethora of your experience.
Yeah, people they have their own websites and all kind of
And so now people can make, just like you're talking about making money on YouTube, you can make money in the triple X industry without actually being fully ensconced in the triple X industry. Yeah.
Oh, that's deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
clips for sale and all that type of stuff. Yeah.
and then, there's people that have never actually been on in a DVD or worked for or a studio, and have done very well. Have whole enterprises.
Wow.
So it's not too much like, or that too unlike any other endeavor that allows social media to promote oneself. Because obviously things are so competitive. Like talking about YouTube, how is it that some people are making money on YouTube and others aren't? Well, it's just a matter of making the maximum use of or exploiting the platform.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and numbers. I mean, they're looking at
Yeah.
numbers. YouTube. I mean, if you do certain numbers, YouTube is going to reach out to you and go, "We want you as a partner."
And
they'll-
tweeting and all
And-
kinds of
and-
Instagramming.
And so at that
yeah.
point, you're not dealing with 10 cents per 10,000. You're dealing in a different world. So there are some people who've done very well. But again, like I said, it just depends on where your ultimate outlet is, and understanding that outlet to its benefit.
Yeah.
Well, do you
Yeah.
think that conventional methods are keeping up with the technology to maximize the exposure? Because you go on YouTube, you see the movie commercials and the promos and things for movies, but beyond that, because the technology is such, you have the Netflix and all these streaming media that people can actually watch a movie without going to the theater now. So is you think that the industry is keeping up with the technology?
I would say that's an interesting question to the extent that I think it changed. I think they're chasing the horse many times. And the numbers have fluctuated. Sometimes the numbers for the year with theatrical movies have been down from the year before. Sometimes they go back up. And I think it's also, a virtue of what's coming out. What's out. Some things people insist on, like when this new Star Wars comes out. People who are Trekkies, they're not going to, they don't want to see that on digital download. They want to go and see it
On the big screen.
on the big screen. So, again, it just depends on what you have and what people feel as though I got to see that at the movie theaters. And Netflix has its place, and, Hulu and all the rest of them, they have their place. So it's really just, what is your platform and how do you apply your platform to your audience? I don't think that that's any secret. And so, like, Lex was saying, I wouldn't have thought that porn had, that market, but I mean, it obviously does. So it's just learning what your audience is looking for.
I've always wanted to know why urban films or ethnic movies or whatever, however we like to define them, don't get the budgets to do special effects and sci-fi and, why can't we have a big budget action movie?
It's a numbers game. I mean, they say we're 13% of the population. So, if you're thinking about 13% of the population, but we over-index in terms of we're 33% of the viewing audience. So when you start looking at that number, many of us go to the movies multiple times. So you might go on a date with one girl, and then you say, well, I haven't seen that movie yet, and you go again. So so many of us will see a movie 2 and 3 times, and that's not necessarily calculated into the numbers, but it's a numbers game. And so many black films don't translate well internationally. At least they say they don't translate well internationally, and that's how many films are financed now. So a big part of the way the business is we're cut off from.
Well, not to cut you off, but let's also throw into the mix the fact that a number of these polling agencies fail to reach the breadth of the populace. Whereas I can count on one hand, myself not included, having ever filled out a poll about a movie. Have I ever been polled? The Nielsen rating, I've never heard of Nielsen calling me directly or anybody that I know.
Right.
So perhaps there's a disenfranchisement in regards to the reporting or recording of the ethnic demographic for movies. And if you know,
and TV and the rest of that. I mean, it's across the board. At one point, and I don't know if that's changed, Nielsen had, I think the number was either 5,000 or 7,000 boxes. I had a box at one point, which I wasn't supposed to, but I had a box at one point. But 5,000 or 7,000 boxes to represent 300 million.
Now, what are these boxes?
The boxes basically measure what you're watching at home. So when they start talking about Nielsen numbers, it's not a magical thing. It's you know.
So whoever has a box at home.
Whoever has a box at home represents. But if you've got 5,000 to 7,000 people to represent 300 million people,
that's ridiculous.
That's such a minuscule number that, and you know, again, like who are those people and how do you choose those people? And I'm hoping that number went up, but you know, so again, it's you're right. There is a certain degree of disenfranchisement because if your numbers, your quote unquote numbers, don't reflect positively, then your show doesn't stay on, your movie doesn't stay out long. So I mean, I think there are all these things, and then you know, just people appreciating content that is specifically for a demographic. You know, there are people who just don't necessarily get it.
Or we're also looking at the fact that so-called black movies have a targeted viewership that is limited and limiting, and then it's almost like a death knell, because if you have a limited target, then if you reach those numbers might be well below what other movies espouse to and achieve.
Well, I think that I think that if given an opportunity and the show is good, people watch it. I mean, there's just the fact that Empire has gotten this rave review. It's not just black people watching this show, apparently. Although the second season is kind of turned into a
fiasco,
novella or something. It's like a soap opera, you know. But people tuned in to watch it.
Well, here's another example numerically, because I really try to look at the numbers and digest it. So a big budget film will get 5,000 screens, and screens are, you know, individual screens across the country. Many black films, even with a name, might only get 2,500 to 3,000 screens. So when you start extrapolating that out over a month, over 2 months, over 3 months, I mean, that's a big difference. So you have 2,000 more screens to generate numbers with.
Yeah, per movie.
Per movie. Per movie. So again, there was in that Sony hack, they were saying that The Equalizer with Denzel Washington would have done much better had it been a white star as opposed to Denzel Washington. And he only had, I think, 3,000 screens for The Equalizer. So, you know, I mean, it's, you know, it's a lot of times you're starting out in a hole. Yeah. So it's just getting out of that hole and getting to ground zero.
Is it because now you said that a lot of the movies, you know, finance their movies by or pay themselves back by what they do internationally. Well, is it, you know, movies starring black American characters, they don't, pervasively is understood that they don't do as well? Is that a Hollywood
That's a generality. Yeah, so they don't put money into promoting, like most films, the initial financing comes from foreign. And so
well, that's the anticipation of foreign revenues, or
yeah, and that's the initial money. Yeah, no, that's the initial money. Most of the films, the initial money comes from foreign.
Okay.
And then after you have your foreign done, then you do your domestic. But if you don't have foreign as a entree to come in, then you're missing a big part of the equation in terms of the way that standard has been built. You know, you take someone like a Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry films don't travel well internationally, according to what they say. But then you take a film like Straight Outta Compton, which has made $200 million, you know, but it had a huge advertising budget.
Oh, we have a call coming in. Hello, caller. Thanks for calling Mancave Live. Hello.
What's happening?
Hello. This sounds like Rob Hines.
What's going on, brothers? How y'all doing?
We're doing good, man.
What up?
Hey, y'all over there, y'all really intimidating me using y'all giant $7 words. You know, I'm basically a $3 brother, and y'all just killing me, boy, with these college words that y'all got in college vocabulary that they didn't have in my grade school, high school / education. Man, I love your program, man, and I follow you guys every week. I just want to say that the real issue in my mind, because the numbers that we bring as black people in this greater society, we can't let bootlegging keep going. Black people will bootleg you to death. Yeah. They will bootleg you to death, and they will feel that there's no harm, no foul, as if it takes an army of people to make a film, and all these people got to get paid, or else they're not going to come to help you make your film, right? And we are not, no matter how well our movies do, they're not doing as well as they're supposed to because people bootleg and then in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, a brother can't get a sandwich without somebody offering him 2 for $5 or something like that, ridiculous like that.
That is true. That is true. Well, you know what? I think that's an interesting point, Rob.
Thank you.
I think we've got to find a way to even capitalize on that. Like, could we control the bootleggers? Because they clearly have an audience. And so we can pretend like they don't exist and they're going to keep going. But like I said, I think we've got to find a way to capitalize even on that market. And I don't know how that works, but I think we have to.
Well, with the bootleg market, it's very, very tough to pierce that veil, if you will, because if you look at the chain of the hierarchy within the bootleg economy, it goes way into very, maybe not mafioso, if you will, but it gets to the point where the higher ups that are controlling these mass bootleggings, it's not the individual guy in the corner that you got to stomp out, because he's working as a part of, he's perhaps the end of a line which leads up to a person who may be involved in other types of activities that may be on either side of the law. So it's we see the guy on the street corner, we fault him, but who is he getting his cachet of bootleg from? Now, I run into that problem perpetually since around 2010-11 in regards to piracy and unauthorized uses of media. So it's something that has been a tragic impact on XXX, and we are seeing a measured impact on mainstream. But I think mainstream has obviously the money and the lobbyists to make to eradicate these types of issues.
But it's still going on, right? But it's still going on. It's still going on, and like I said, I mean,
you got to go to not but you got to go to the Chinese mafia. Do you got to cut out the yakuza?
Whoever it is, if we could find a way to say, look,
because a lot of it, hey, as a person who had at one point done a little of the bootlegging, a lot of it comes from Asia. They have the best digital cams, and they get their little and they hook it up, and you can go online some places and you can download and you see the little Chinese writing on it because it's not in English, so you know where it comes from, and they have the best copies.
But again, like I said, I mean, how do you? So if you have an immovable force or an unstoppable force, do you continue just to say, "Damn it, it's an unstoppable force," or do you try to find a way to say, "Look, is it a table we can sit down with you, and maybe you don't put this product out for a week, or give me 2 weeks, give me a month before you put it out, and then we do some rev share," and I'm okay with that because those are street soldiers.
Right. But how can you do that when the movies and movies and TV are just a part of the greater economy? So if you look at handbags, clothing,
right,
maybe bootlegging,
right, Nike and everything,
Fikey,
we have another call coming in.
It's Nike with 2 E's, right?
Hello, caller. Thanks for hitting us up on the Man Cave. Who's this?
Well, I'm just calling to say that just like marijuana wasn't legal, it was on the street corners for a long time, but now it's legalized, especially in California. Eventually, maybe they will figure out a way to regulate bootlegging. And maybe what you suggested, there is the actual situation, the case, that they wait, you strike a deal and say, hey, give us 2 weeks, give us a month before you go out there. Now, does it mean you got to kick them down something? Maybe. I don't know.
Absolutely,
but I think that may be one of the better solutions that I've heard.
You sound like a very bright woman.
Sounds like someone we know, Giselle. That's a very good point. But the thing about it is, I mean, it can be said, can we stomp out it completely? Is that something that is worthwhile doing? I know they've tried to do it. It's an uphill battle, but it's a battle worth fighting because there's a lot of money being lost.
Right. And so if it's $100 million industry to them, they're not going away, and they're not going away easily.
So it might take a fight. It might.
So again, do we allow them to sit at the table?
Yeah.
Because, like I said, they're not going away. Now, you're right about the bags and the clothing, and
well, Giselle, in terms of, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay, so now with female clothing, I mean, as men, I can't necessarily say there's a lot of men's clothing being replicated, but stuff like handbags and people buying, like, the spending of on an expensive bag, and you find that it's counterfeit, that is very defeating, isn't it?
Look, let me tell you something. There's so many women out here that are broke as hell and want those bags that they don't care that it's counterfeit.
So there's a market.
There's a market for it. That's what I'm saying. There's a market
yeah.
for it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's supply and demand. We're in the supply and demand.
I've known clothing designers who, they have a gown on the runway or somewhere, if it's on a television show, they say they have to get it out within a certain amount of time because as soon as they see it, it's replicated.
So literally,
and you know what?
Yeah.
It's not even as soon as they see it. A lot of times the manufacturers, when they send out to manufacturers, because I've worked the magic show before and I've been on the other side, on a manufacturing side where they were doing shoes, you show these manufacturers your shoes, even though you have NDA. Next thing you know, the shoe he designed happened to somebody I know. The shoe they designed is on the market actually by pastries before they even released their line. And so their line was null and void because it was out there. So the manufacturers are actually selling your product as well, even though they have non-disclosure agreements with you. So it's yeah, you're right. It's happening everywhere, and it is very starting in China. I'm just going to put it out there.
That's interesting.
And for someone to really outsell you with your product, that's got to be hurtful too.
Oh,
You know. But I think that, like I said, when there's a market that exists, someone's going to fill it, and so unless we can get them, and until we can get them at the table, I think it's going to continue. And you stomp out one, another one's coming.
Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier about the international sales of a film, and the fact that our films might not translate. But I would go as far to say that it's the way other people regard their films versus our films. Gangster movies per se. We were talking before about The Godfather and the irreverence that they have for the Italian mobster, who is just as violent as the street corner thug, but they blow that up and romanticize it, and it's popular, and it's on a global scale that it's seen as something other than.
Well, here's an example. So if you mentioned The Godfather, which is a great film. I'm not going to diminish that. It's a wonderful film, actually. But you put that against New Jack City. So here you have, in The Godfather, a men who respect family, men who have a code of honor, men who are, honorable people as a whole. You take that and put it up against New Jack City, and here you have a guy who respects nothing, who would hold a child up as a shield against gunfire. So, when you look at how we're portrayed, I love both of those movies, and I love New Jack City, so I'm not saying anything against New Jack City. I'm just saying our criminals, even if you took The Wire, you took something like The Wire, you took Stringer Bell, and I had heard that years ago someone had overheard him saying, there's no way you would take your most popular character on any show and kill them off, which he was at that time on The Wire. You wouldn't kill Tony Soprano off.
Right.
But again, he was a bright man, and so it's how people perceive us in these situations that I think that hurt us overall.
Well, let me add to that. I would say, if we speaking of The Godfather and New Jack City, if you let's extrapolate even farther. If we take Scarface, in the character captured by Al Pacino, if we take that and compare that directly with the New Jack City. What you will see is you see that mainstream Hollywood media will portray from a boss perspective when you get into these dark sides of society, whereas the African American character will be the foot soldier. So it's the converse, if you will, tough word
not
to
the
use.
flunky, right,
but it's
yeah.
like both for the main characters and the primaries of the movie. But it's like in our case, we're always the foot soldier, and thus we don't get that celebration, if you will, that the boss character will be like a Tony Montana will get, versus a Nino Brown.
But even and let's take that even one step further. So what did we know about Nino Brown?
What do we know about him?
What do we know about? Did we know his family history? Did
Dude,
we know
how
where
did
he
it
came
begin?
from? He
From
was
the-
still he was on a bridge
Right.
on the guy for bridge. So what did we know about Nino
So
Brown?
he was already a dealer at the beginning of. He was already an
yes.
established dealer.
So we knew very little about his family. We didn't know about his mother. We didn't know where he came from. At least with Scarface, we knew he came over on the boat.
Right.
He was a poor immigrant.
Was
and he had to do
socioeconomic,
whatever
political expatriate, right.
So we
Right.
understood his struggle, and we understood, well, look, this was the only choice that he had, and that was reflected throughout the movie, that he felt as though, look, this is the only choice I have. I don't speak English very well, and you notice his English was broken throughout
Right.
the movie. And so we, again, get an opportunity to sympathize with that character and empathize with them. Whereas all we know about Nino Brown is he's got a funny haircut, and, that we don't know anything else about him. So I think the more you know about your character, the more opportunity you have to connect with your character in a real way.
So is that in the writing, the directing, is that lack of concern just to get to the
meat and bones, whereas perhaps his character does not gain our interest until he has
Exactly.
made it to boss level. And so we are denied the rudiments of our past, and that makes us look a far shallow of a character, so enough less likable, and perhaps not as impactful over generational.
And
from
he's
a generational
vilified.
standpoint. Right.
And he's vilified. And so, again, like I said, there's nothing wrong with, let me not say there's nothing wrong with being a gangster, but, again, it's the fullness of the story, and it's understanding your narrative. And a lot of times we don't get the chance to have our narrative played out on screen.
Let me ask you this, Cynthia. What do you think about Empire versus Power, and how the viewership is positioned to pick one over the other? Now I know this, and certainly Power and Empire are not representative of all television that is directed towards the African American demographic, but it is something that people are chopping up by way of comparison. Power versus Empire, is one becoming buffoon-like? Are we seeing Empire slip into buffoonery or no?
I try not to use those words.
Hard words.
Very, very
Yeah.
hard words.
Yeah.
Really, I think that, and I was
well,
telling
Cookie's
someone
becoming a caricature of the character.
of the
Yeah.
character. Yeah, I think that in my opinion, Empire is taking on more of a soap opera-ish feel to it. And soap operas have their place.
Like a Black Dallas.
Yeah, or I
almost.
said Dynasty. I said like Dynasty.
Yeah, right.
So
There you go, okay.
I was using the word. I said
Yeah.
it's feeling like Dynasty now. Even the way it's cut, it doesn't feel like it's cut the same way, meaning edited the same way it was last season. Like when the dramatic scene happens, there's dun 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 dun. Like what is that? When did you all start going to that?
And now you have full on music videos ingrained into the.
Yeah.
I didn't
No,
appreciate that.
that was.
What Terrence had with the full song and
Yeah.
not for nothing, people. I'm sure this is raising many eyebrows. You guys are asking the same questions. Are we seeing a large influx of Lee Daniels' sexual proclivities being played out on the show? And is that an affront to people that might be straight and watching the show?
Well, I'm going to stick to, because I'm working in this business. I want to continue to work in this business.
Okay.
No, but I do think that there's a delineation, a big delineation between Empire and Power. And the biggest delineation, I think, is that Empire clearly targets women and women viewership.
Seeks out.
Yes, that purposefully. And I think Power, because in many ways, Empire is really the Taraji show. And that's no disrespect to Terrence Howard, who's a fine actor. But I think the show really centers around her, and she is the,
Is by way of the writing, or is it just the power of her presence?
I think it's writing at this point. And she does have a very powerful presence. I mean, I thought Taraji was going to be a fine actor going back to Baby Boy. I remember seeing her in a Baby Boy because I thought that she was vulnerable.
Yeah.
She was likable. I mean, you don't really see a lot of black female characters on screen that have vulnerability. They're always hard.
Yeah.
And,
if we look at what we're seeing on regular television with the ascension of black female positioning, whether it's as producers or main principal actors, and
Yeah,
and
so-
maybe the Empire is in line with that. If we see the number of ascensions of African American women,
Viola Davis.
but yeah, and then
Yeah.
maybe Taraji's position within Empire is to in lockstep with the ascension of the black female actors.
I just hope the writing changes in it, because last week it was like a cartoon. It was like watching a cartoon. It was just over the top.
But I think Power, though, it has a much more opportunity for men to connect to, in a true gangster sense, because the Power is really about the why is his name escaping me? The lead male character. It's really his show.
Without question,
It's his show.
Right.
So it's clearly, and his wife is not. You don't see her have a whole lot of screen time.
No.
So the screen time really tells you whose show it is. So I think that's a difference from, Empire to Power is just one seemingly skews towards men and the other one is clearly skewing towards women. Though I hear a lot of women who like Power too.
Well, it's also the look and feel of the show. I mean, the look is dark, is more realistic, whereas Empire is bright and everybody's got all. It's like the 80s with cross colors.
Perhaps the air of the superficial, the superfluous in Empire compared to the grittiness of Power.
It's street.
And they're both supposed to be set in New York, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's but Empire's actually shot in Chicago, but they're both supposed to be set in New York.
And
But
all the cameos, it's like they're just overdoing it. It's overdoing it.
so I think that there's room for both, and there are people who I'm sure enjoy the direction that Empire is going in this
But not
season.
since they dropped off.
Well, that 3
considerably.
million, they lost 3 million
Yeah,
viewers.
so
I don't know what the
something's
numbers were from last night, but the week before they lost 3 million, and 3 million viewers is a lot of viewers.
So anybody know Lee Daniels? Tell him to check out this show and fix it up, brother. Fix it up.
Well, I do have a question then along these lines. How has Blackish done in its second season?
I haven't been keeping up with Blackish.
And there's another show too.
The Carmichaels, which is on NBC.
Right.
The first episode, I think they did great numbers coming out the gate. I don't know what their numbers have been.
With David Allen Greer?
Yeah, I watched the it's a funny show. Okay, the Carmichaels, Blackish still has a little flavor to it. Carmichaels, it seemed like it's a show that could be white. They just threw black faces in there,
Or could be on TNT. Could be a Tyler Perry TNT show.
Well, even Tyler Perry has a little flavor. It's over the top caricatures, but do you think that is having black writers or black production on a television show essential for it to have an ethnic vibe to it?
Well, that's a good question. So if you took everybody saw Straight Outta Compton, right? So all of the writers on Straight Outta Compton are white.
Really?
Yes. There's not one black writer on Straight Outta Compton. So I think good writing is good writing, but I think if you have something that's supposed to capture a feeling and a vibe, I think you need people who are familiar with that feeling and vibe. So, but I still believe that if you're a good writer and you understand story arc and plot points and all those other things, I think that's important.
Well, then how does that not fly in the face of what? And I fail to remember the female director's name, who was a panel discussion with that included Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Effie, I can't think of what Effie's
And
last name
she
is.
spoke to that as well, as far as a black production. Why aren't there not more black writers? And point of fact, you mentioned that Straight Outta Compton was indeed penned by a number of people who were non-African American.
Non-African American, yeah. Well, I'm not saying that we need to be in the rooms, and many times people will write about us based on their perception of who they think we are.
Perception versus experience.
Versus experience.
So Straight Outta Compton, all those, whatever happened was conveyed to those writers. They could not connect by way of feel or experience. While I don't know Ice Cube, I may have experiences that may correlate.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Cube and Dre and the rest of them were like, it should go this way, and here's how it should go, and they laid the story out for them. But many times we're not in the rooms, and they are writing our characters, and you know.
So does she have a point? Did that female director?
Oh,
have a
absolutely.
point?
Effie has a point. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for Matt Damon to try to correct her about being black
He
is
made
ridiculous.
himself look really stupid.
You know, it's like, you know, that would be like me trying to correct you on being white. Like, no, this is how you're white. You know, I've been white before, and I just understand. So I think it's ridiculous, but you know, many times in even our stories, the black character is a plot point to improve whatever the main character's life is. So they help them to get themselves together.
Sidekick.
Well, and the phrase was the magical Negro. So you help them to become better. We don't know anything about you. I mean, and you know, you go back to even Lethal Weapon, you know. Mel Gibson was suicidal. He was all of this, and then Danny Glover comes into his life and helps him to become a
he's
better,
got a
more
wife and
sane
kids
person.
and
Yeah, right. And he helps them become better. So that's a traditional
Well, so
way that
are we seeing a
utilize.
juxtaposition with power and the use of a supporting character, the ghost partner, a white
Tommy,
guy?
yeah, Tommy.
Now, is that a juxtaposition where you have a white character playing the role of the magical Negro? If you will?
But you know what? He's not even helping him in his life. As a matter of fact, he's
bringing him down. He's trying to keep him in the street.
Well, only as of late. I mean, obviously, I think that Tommy represents a side of Ghost that is equal as the straight up Ghost character.
Well, Ghost is trying to improve himself. He's trying to get out of the game. Tommy's trying to keep him submerged in it.
Well, Tommy reminds Ghost that he has a part of himself that is all street.
But he doesn't want to. I mean, so again, you know, in the American lexicon of gangsters, there's supposed to be an evolution of you start out in the streets and you evolve into a businessman and you become legit.
Right.
That's the, you know, the pattern that's been laid. So what Ghost is trying to do is get out of the streets and get out of the illegal ways and go legit. And Tommy is strictly going, nah.
Yeah,
nah.
why leave?
And his wife is like, nah. So, which is interesting, but yet and still, here you have this hot Latina who is like, yeah, leave all of that alone.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's an interesting point that people don't look at. Like I said, I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at things.
Well, she's actually, her character is driving a wedge in the black household, family household. And we see what I've seen on TV is the continual attack on the African-American family and or household. Now, not for nothing, I do like the fact that her character is an upstate Latina woman, obviously, very, you know, but she is driving a wedge within the household of Ghost and his wife and his kids. Not for nothing.
On that note, I mean, this has been a very interesting discussion. We could go on and on. I really appreciate you coming down and sharing your time with us.
Time went by very quickly. Thank you
Yes,
for
it
having me.
did. So, in closing, where might people contact you? If
Wow,
they
I'm at the
have
hot dog stand on 79.
At Pink's over
Right,
the corner of,
Pink's. I move around. You can't trust the people.
What's the name of your film that's coming out?
The Rhythm and the Blues, and DTP565@gmail.com. I've done Real Black Love, REEL, blacklove.com. So you can check out any of those, and that would be the best place.
And I've actually seen a rough cut of the trailer. It's an amazing looking film. Yeah,
Thank you.
So I look forward to checking it out for
Thank
sure.
you, brother. I appreciate you both.
No doubt.
All right, so we appreciate you. We know you could be doing a lot of other things on your Thursday, and you're right here with us. So keep supporting. Tell somebody to know somebody, and let's get it cracking. Lex, you have anything to say?
No. To that end, of course, follow me at Lex11. We'll be back here next Thursday here on the Man Cave.
All right. Deuces.
Peace.
Straight talk from our perspective. This is Man Cave Live with your host Lexington Steele and co-host Andre Lavelle and Johnny Depp on LA Talk Radio. Let's get it in.